So, firstly, welcome everybody. Normally there would be a very amazing, tall, humble man stood next to me, Stefan Kraus, but unfortunately for us, he's in Bali. Fortunately for him, he's in Bali, so escaping the winter. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is HARSHINI KARUNARATNE. I'm the program manager for the Node Institute. So any course-related questions about the Node Institute and our programming, you can come to me. And today we're at Manifest.io, which is happening in Alte Münze, and I'd like to introduce the co-curator and organizer of the space, which is actually also me. So a second welcome is thank you for being here. The Node Institute TouchDesigner Roundtable is a monthly meetup that happens to bring together the touch designer community, but also anyone that's interested in visual programming and creative computation. So if this is your first time, please feel free to ask me questions about that. And at Manifest.io, it's really a space to give a platform for artists and expression. And so we're totally happy to partner up with the Node Institute for their support and to have these 3 amazing talks today. Because you're part of the roundtable, you also have access to our exhibition of Manifest.io, as well as the performances that are taking place from 10 p.m. onwards, where we have TATSURU, ARAI, Jun, SUZUKI, and Milkova from France that just flew in today and yesterday, and also HowlRound, who hopefully landed from London an hour ago. So I'm really excited to welcome you to Manifest.io. So, this is our 29th Touch Designer Roundtable, and I would love to introduce our first speaker, who I think you extended your stay to be here with us. CAITY CROFT is based in New York, is that correct? CAITY CROFT is based in New York. She is an artist and a musician, and she has built her artistic and business career around the desire to improve humanity through immersive storytelling, gamification, and storytelling on the individual, community, and global levels. CAITY is passionate about immersive text potential for mixed and extended reality entertainment and educational experiences that gamify personal development. And today, CAITY is going to discuss how she is exploring Touch Designer and how it could be applied to her transmedia artist music world-building experience. Thanks so much for sticking around for the Node Institute Roundtable and Manifest.io. We're super happy to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Hi, everyone. I'm CAITY CROFT, as she said, and it is an honor to be here with you all, and an honor to be joining the Touch Designer community and kicking off this latest roundtable for the Node Institute. So let's dive right in, shall we? So I figured, why not give the presentation in, is this working? No? Yes? Should I go higher? No? All right. Ah, thank you. We like it when we seem taller than anticipated. When we need to raise the mic, it's a good thing. So I thought I would put together the presentation in TouchDesigner itself, and I'll give you a little sneak peek of some of the things that I will be showing later. So just briefly to kick things off, because this is we're going to get into some world building things. I was born with synesthesia, which means that I see music as colors and shapes in the air. And I think 8% of the population has it. There's certain kinds. And so I absolutely fell in love with music and knew from a very early age I wanted to be able to show people what it was like having synesthesia, once I realized that people couldn't see music universally. And so that led pretty naturally into becoming an artist-musician and a visual artist. And I'm currently a master's student at NYU at Tisch in the Interactive Media Arts and Telecommunications program. And we just finished up our whole Berlin segment of our master's program. And I'll get into that in a second. But just to give you a little taste of things, with the music that I've created, I developed this pretty wild concept called the Eternal Game. And essentially, my music is the soundtrack to the game. And it's still pretty early days for me with TouchDesigner. So we did an intensive course called Live Bodies for NYU Berlin, taught by Helene Ulas, who is an instructor actually at the Node Institute. And she valiantly and just expertly and very patiently taught all of us who are complete fledgling touch designer builders, world builders, developers, visual programmers, basically start to finish in about 10 sessions, touch designer and a little brush up course in theory and all the things, and going into a little bit about the gaze. And I know that in Berlin, everyone is, I would say, pretty critical art theory savvy, so I'll spare most of you, but kind of for those who don't know what the gaze is, essentially it's sort of a critical art theory concept about the power dynamics, ultimately, whereby there's a subject who's typically characterized as male, then there's the object who's the female, and it's a very interesting time, and I think that multiple different waves of critical art theory have examined this almost ad nauseum at this point. But now we're sort of at an interesting point where social media has been around enough in this whole influencer culture thing that it's almost, if everyone's an influencer, then no one really is. So I used my thesis project for this NYU Berlin experience to kind of poke fun at and examine those dynamics, as well as the dynamics of not only the self-objectifying object, but also the ways that computer vision algorithms and AI objectify us, both as a series of pixels, and groupings and patterns, but also the bodies of data that we are basically trailing behind us, whether or not we'd like to, and what that ultimately reveals about us. So I have a little taste. And if I'd had more time, I would have put together a pretty intricate setup with audio outs and things, but I just thought it'd be safer because I've had audio issues in the past with playing some of these live. I'll give you a little taste of what that was about. Are we good with audio, or? Yes? Perfect. All right.
Hey guys, I'm one of the many faces of the social media and advertising industrial complex, here to sell you another thing that you don't want or need that I got for free. And we've created this whole hedonic treadmill between us where basically you feel like you need it because I 10 out of 10 recommend it. And we just live for these parasocial relationships between us, even though, I don't know about you, but I feel completely dead inside. And so, you know what? I'm here for my community, so we can all just scream into the void together. Hey guys, I'm one of the many faces of the social media and advertising industry.
shook once. Everybody's on one. Everybody's all thumbs. Yes, sir. I'm living for the visions. I don't need permission. Feeling my ambition. If you see it, would you like it? Then you like it. What you see, do you want a piece of me? I'm a piece of me. If you see it, would you like it? Then you like it. What you see, do you want a piece of me? I'm a piece of me. Do you objectify myself? Do you objectify you? Do you objectify myself? Do you objectify you? DM me on the low, babe. I know you wanna play that way. DM me on the low, babe. Slide at me and run your game. DM me on the low, babe. I know you wanna play that way. DM me on the low, babe. Slide at me and run your game. Just roll with it. Just roll with it. Living for the double tap, double tap, double tap. Do you objectify myself? Do you objectify you? Do you objectify myself? Do you objectify you?
So I don't know, for those of you who are really big into your gaze and critical theory, I did have to include 2 homages to Agnes Varda, who's a brilliant video artist, and also there's Cindy Sherman, very small. I had to pay tribute to those who came before us and have been examining these topics for a while. So, all right, on to world building, which is why we're all here. So I think it follows as a kid who had synesthesia that I would be a pretty dreamy person, and I had these just infinite worlds in my head at all times, and was just dying to bring them to life however possible, and basically just see, okay, how can we step into one another's imaginations? That was my dream. When people would say, okay, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm like, well, I don't know, but I mean, I'd love to be an inventor, but I mean, I'd love to sort of see through other people's eyes, maybe build worlds together, whatever that looks like, whatever allows for that. So here we are. And so as a kid, I remember thinking so often when I was sitting in class that the modern forms of education really were not doing it justice. And by it, I mean showing truly how fascinating the world is. And so I think that extended reality and TouchDesigner in particular really is a tool for not only the multivariate mind, but also would allow us to interact more directly, more intimately with the world, with one another, and with the future, depending on the experiences we can figure. And after the whole experience at NYU Berlin, I quickly realized, TouchDesigner is kind of like an analogy for life. You've got operators, you're connecting all these things together, you're learning different levels, and once you think you have something mastered, something either inevitably breaks or you have to go up or down a level of abstraction. But it's absolutely worth being persistent and learning more and more, because it's the nuance becomes so much richer. So as a kid and throughout my adolescence, I used to mentor homeless children who in the inner city in Los Angeles, and helped them on their way to college. And to me, I found it really heartbreaking that a lot of them didn't have very much time to have wonder or the sense of joy or curiosity, because they were focused on other things, and that absolutely crushed me. So I guess I always thought too that this technology could enable people to step into rooms, and as you see in the exhibitions in the other room, that and particularly in Berlin, I think Berlin people really deeply understand this, that there's so many, we all just want to be delighted, we all want to connect, we all want to feel seen and understood, and have our minds blown, I suppose, by novel experiences. And so I can see there are so many ways to bring that to life. So on the topic of world building, so I'll get more into the concepts behind this, but these are essentially, these are two different levels of one of the worlds I created around the music, envisioning both real world and parallel universe world experiences. So I'm quite keen on speculative future design. And so these are a number of AI-generated images that I put together in a network and recorded with TouchDesigner. And they're quite fun. But what's really neat about this, and I would imagine all of you are at different stages of world building. I know I most assuredly have a lot to learn from all of you as well. But I feel like we are just scratching the surface of having the ability to speak worlds into life with generative AI, and that the future of the music creation experience and being an artist means building worlds for people and saying, hey, I built a world. Would you like to come and check it out? I've developed all these cool things that we can do together. And so I think we're just at that precipice, so it's a very exciting time. So speaking of exciting times, I hope I'm not misquoting him, and I know that a number of people have said this, but I believe it might be Asimov, but I might need to check my sources. But he or someone similar in the sci-fi iconic author field have been credited with saying something to the tune of, the future's already arrived, but it's just asymmetrically distributed. And so I think that we got a good end of the deal in terms of our distribution of the future over in the critical theory corner with TouchDesigner. So I think that we have this opportunity to use TouchDesigner to help design experiences before they arrive, and design essentially speculative futures, the future of education, entertainment, you name it. Anyway, I'm waffling on, so I'm gonna keep going. Anyway, so here's some stills from from the content series I created with the world that I built. And so I'll get into that more. But as a musician, and I'm working actually with some other folks who are in the Berlin space, I'm thinking about how do we build worlds with immersive tech and projection mapping and biometric sensor data and levels of interactivity using the mobile phone to essentially allow people to collectively dream on the dance floor, both by syncing people's biorhythms, but also by getting them to buy in various ways initially on the cell phone. These are experiments in progress, so I'll share more work when I have it. But on how could people on the dance floor in certain moments vote on or add something to kind of a collective log of what some of our visions for the future might be. The idea being that we have to collectively create and consume the narratives we want for the futures that we want to build, if we want to build them. So, the eternal game, that's my game concept. What on earth is that? So, oh, and we open a box. All right, here we go. Okay, so essentially this is a MMORPG transmedia gaming concept that's a content series. And so MMORPG, for those who aren't gamers, is massively multiplayer online role-playing game. And it's a vehicle for the music and interactive experiences and for user-generated content. And basically, the idea behind this was I started making music at a time where essentially there were a few kind of prevailing sentiments. One was self-help, personal growth, etc. The other was that artists were starting to have the ability to become world builders. The third was me dealing with trying to make my own sense of the world and thinking, oh, if I only had an AI assistant or some tool that allowed me to find my way through the world, that would be pretty nice. And as well as this other idea that was sort of coming to the fore about, well, what if we were to use play and serious games as a way to think about both our personal problems but also global problems? And because it puts us in a positive state of mind and might allow us to develop solutions more readily and with a greater, a greater generative sense and generative capacity individually and collectively. So this whole concept was really inspired by this theorist, James P. Cars, who talks about the infinite game. And the infinite game is, I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, but for those of you who are not, it's essentially that life can be seen as a game, but it's not a zero-sum game. A zero-sum game is one in which games are played to be won or lost. Positive-sum games are those which are played to continue playing, or there are multiple stakeholders and everyone wins. And so the idea is to play long-term games with long-term people. And so with that in mind, back when I was creating my music, I've been working on this concept and studying it for over 6 years now. And I thought, all right, so here's my thesis then, okay. Could we design some sort of gamified something that would be a vehicle for music, a world-building experience, might allow me to maybe solve some of my own problems or make living life easier, possibly provide a solution for global problems, and allow us to find a sense of play and connection together. All right, it's lofty, but all right, let's give it a try. And that's sort of been the guiding principle of that, trying to weave all these pieces together. So, let's see here. Okay, hang on. So, here's a little example. Oh, no, not you again. We don't want you again. All right. So, here's a quick example of what I mean by the eternal game and the content series, just to give you a taste of this. And the other focusing question I realized I forgot to mention was also thinking about Ready Player One, and also, okay, in the not too distant future, as evidenced by the release of the Apple Vision Pro, we will probably be living in a world where we have to deal with mixed reality and wearables all the time. So, I guess as a counter to the dystopian Black Mirror narratives, is there a world in which we could very mindfully design experiences that are actually lovely, and include algorithms that allow us to create self-supporting behaviors, or the algorithm says, hey, I've noticed X, Y, and Z behavior, and this is not in alignment with your goals. Would you like me to tweak the algorithm so that, that you're doing more of X? And it's like, why, thank you, yes, that sounds fantastic. And maybe throw in a little fun on the side. So that was sort of the main idea that's shaped a bit of this. So I have a few episodes here, but I can play just one, and maybe by a sense of general interest, or I might call someone out. I can either play several, they're about maybe 30 seconds at each, or do them at the end if there's time. But without further ado.
This is no ordinary game, and you are no ordinary player. You have...
Oh no, technical difficulties. All right, please hold. We'll, oh. Hopefully that'll do it, huh? Ah, we got there, okay. All right, pretend you didn't see anything. Outside.
This is no ordinary game, and you are no ordinary player. You have been chosen. You were born when the universe exploded into life, scattering stardust across the galaxies, eventually forming the planet and everything on it, including your earliest ancestors. You belong to an ancient lineage of player gamers that have evolved over time in pursuit of a singular goal: survive. But now, you have been chosen to honor their legacy and write your own. But you get the opportunity not just to survive, but thrive. It's your turn to play the game. Learn the rules so you know which to break and which to follow, and play your way to a better world. It is your destiny. It's all yours.
All right, let's see. Another episode or no? One more? Or keep it rolling? I'll do either, you tell me. One more? Okay.
In the eternal game of Metacroft, there are 4 levels: the physical, the social, the individual, and the spiritual. The object is to build skills and knowledge on each level, team up with other players to advance faster, and continue playing for greater experiences and rewards. Do you wish to continue?
All right, so for those of you who are like, okay, what was that? And I don't blame you. I think I'm so close to this that sometimes I wonder if I've skipped a few steps of explanation here. But essentially that was the Eternal Game content series, and it's sort of like and the content series is meant to serve almost like a living prototype for what some of the experiences could look like if you were to say, just all of a sudden you exist in the world, you were in Plato's cave up until now, and someone gives you a headset, and you have to sort of figure out the whole life thing. And so I sometimes cringe being the actor in it as well, but it was COVID and I couldn't see anybody, so I had to do my best there. But if anyone's interested in being an actor in it, please let me know. I brought some headsets. So in any event, the whole idea of this concept was, okay, create a social media content series that is sort of quick to release and get feedback on, to see what are people responding to, what design features are people saying, oh, this is compelling, or I didn't get anything from that, or no, I actually find this problematic. And the hope being, what if we actually could play this amazing game and live in this world that's a bit more meritocratic, and education became addicting and connecting with the world, and we developed new value systems on that basis. And of course we would need a huge amount of compute, and of course Starlink and a number of other things to get a global-sized, massively multiplayer online role-playing game up and running. And you know, the idea is a bit wild, but if we could make that happen, I would be thrilled. But I thought, you know, it's a near impossibility unless someone is maybe stupid enough, or who knows, to just sort of say, well, you know, I don't know if I'm nearly qualified, but here's what I think I would love to learn, from mental models to core STEM disciplines to concepts like TouchDesigner. So that's the real world content, kind of world building and edutainment side of my concept. So connecting the connecting the whole eternal game concept to the music. Ultimately, where I arrived was, all right, let's think about global problems, let's think about all these different things in a twofold approach. We've got the real world, in like the series you just saw, and then a parallel universe world. So it provides enough abstraction that we can look at ourselves and our avatar selves and global problems with a layer of lore upon it. So the abstraction might allow us to deal with it and be a bit more removed from it in order to maybe develop better solutions. And so over, I think, 6, 7 years, my former music partner and I, we crafted a very particular sound for each level of this world. And the music in our 4 sounds is the adventures of the soundtrack on each level. And each song has a narrative kernel to it, which can be deployed depending on where the technology goes and evolves. And so they're all linked together. And I thought about this whole game of life like a simplified version of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So the physical world, we have to balance our bodies and essentially the planet, and then in society, we have to understand how to interact and communicate. And then the individual level, we have to understand ourselves, and the spiritual level is all about realizing that we're ultimately just sort of playing a game in life, and it's all very short. So, as I kind of said, the album follows the adventures of our avatars in this parallel world, and not dissimilar to the series that you saw, our avatars travel through the 4 levels to level up on the pyramid. And I guess in real life, what really inspired that was the sense that in order to make a sense of our worlds, we're constantly leveling up and constantly trying to enhance our connections to nature and ourselves and one another. And so that's really what drove this whole experience. And just to give you kind of a taste of what I'm talking about in terms of the ways that the sounds were slightly different. So it's all meant to be a cohesive artist sound, but so I put together the music and then with some of the graphics here in TouchDesigner and exported them. And so here's one of the things that's possible. Let's see.
Keep away, keep away, keep away. Round I run you, round I run you. Keep away, keep away, keep away. Round I run you, round I run you.
Okay, so as I'm nearing the end here, I think a core thing about the whole world building experience that's been a godsend is that I haven't been able to really adequately describe all of the different pieces and facets of this world until I learned TouchDesigner. And I would frequently lose people at various stages because it's so many concepts to consider. And so I'm truly inspired by what's possible, and I cannot wait to keep learning learning the software and learning from you all and experimenting with all the latest tools. I've been loving MediaPipe and everything else, and it's truly amazing to see what this can create and what we can do here. So it's really yeah, it's an honor to be here. And I think what I might do is, depending on timing, because I think I was told to wrap up shortly, I can leave you with one last video that I created very quickly in TouchDesigner, and then I'll turn it back over to you, I guess, and you'll help me facilitate the next steps. But let's see here. Hang on.
so much.
Of course.
It's interesting because there's the technical touch designer side, there's also the media theory angle, and then there's also the creative expression. So thank you for bringing all these worlds together.
Of course.
Do we have any questions in the audience? We have time for one. And if not, then I will ask one. Great.
Otherwise,
We have a microphone there.
yes.
Thank you, Wieland.
I was just wondering, how did you create these images in the second video? They look very 3D, but also artificially generated. So I'm curious, what kind of techniques are you using?
I'm sorry, which ones? These ones?
Yeah, exactly.
So initially modeled in Blender and then finished off in Unreal. And so I co-created these with a dear friend and artist of mine. Or not, I almost said artist of mine, but let's reverse that, right? So dear friend and who's an artist named Joachim Svedlund, and so he and I were designing them together and going back and forth on all the concepts. So I really have to credit him because he's brilliant, and I sketched everything out, and we were working together on it, and what he was able to ultimately render was absolutely beautiful. I'm also learning, but I'm still a bit more ham-handed with it, but I'm learning, and my scripting is getting much better with game engines. So some of these things I've developed on my own, but you can kind of see what's earlier, more crude work, perhaps. So yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Of course.
Katie, for joining us today. We're going to take a 20-minute break. You have time to explore a little bit, grab a drink in the area C in our main hall. For the live stream audience, grab your drink from home. But we'll be back in 20 minutes at 8 o'clock for Jun SUZUKI and NICOLAS MICHEL, who will talk about AI and Touch Designer. Thank you so much, Katie.
Thanks for having me.
Amazing. Cool. Welcome back. I want to take a moment to say hi to our live stream audience. It's so weird because I've been here the whole day. But hi to our live stream audience that's tuning in for the Node Institute TouchDesigner Roundtable. I'm sorry that maybe there's a bit of FOMOing happening because in IRL space we have exhibitions and performances happening, so I hope you don't feel left out. I would love to welcome our next two presenters to the roundtable. I think, Nicolas, you just got in from Paris today. Amazing. And June, you're based between Berlin and Marseille, and I'm looking forward to the performance that you two are going to do later that I'm sure you'll talk about in your presentation. But just to give a little bit of an intro, Jun SUZUKI, along with his collaborator, AI enthusiast and generative artist NICOLAS MICHEL. Jun SUZUKI is a creative developer and singer. Together, they are making their first collaboration and building their first duet, premiering their duet performance with us today at Manifest.io. Their AV performance, Is This Not Real? And their talk, which is going to happen right now, will explore how narrative and technological frameworks intertwine to create art that resonates on a personal level. And I will actually stop there because I don't want to give any spoilers for your talk. Can we welcome June and Nicolas to the stage, please?
Thank you. All right, can we put this second screen? Okay. Is this the, oh, right. Voila. All right, let me put my little notes here. Okay. Hello, everyone. We're very excited and honored to be here tonight. Please bear with us. This is our first artist talk in English, both of us. So yeah, we have a lot of notes here. Don't hesitate to make a strange noise if we are too much sucked in by this mesmerizing screen, okay? So that we can look up to your beautiful faces. Okay, I am Jun SUZUKI. I'm half French, half Japanese. I sang opera from 10 to 20 years old. I studied cinema from 20 to 25, and I composed music for theater, dance performances, and documentaries from 25 to 30. I am now working as a data engineer and creative developer in the realms of performative art, installation, sound art, and creative coding. Now on to you, Nicolas. All right, tell us who you are.
Hi everyone. Oh. So I'm Nicolas Michel, aka Milkova. I'm a French visual artist and a new media artist based in Paris. I study contemporary art and digital art at La Sorbonne in Paris too. And I'm specialized in creating generative and immersive installation. I got really into TouchDesigner about 3 years ago. My work focuses mostly on the connection between the abstract and the figurative. And I love working with professionals from different backgrounds, such as music composer, scientist, creative coder. I've just recently finished a residency in Paris with the CNRS. It's in English, French National Center for Scientific Research. And the project deals with the concept of explosion. Maybe you're familiar with this concept, but it's a concept that measures environmental and non-environmental factors that affect human health, like air pollution, smoking, stress, anxiety. Maybe this one? Okay, perfect. So for another project, this one up there, which is called Tidal Echoes. I was influenced by impressionist techniques. But instead of using visual landscape or visual element. I use a soundscape to create my artwork. I worked with a friend of mine, Paul Kushnirek, who is a field recording artist and a sound engineer. I also did a couple of AV performances with another friend of mine, Valentin Fayot. We performed under the project called TSCN across Europe at a festival dedicated to digital art or electronic music, like PatchLab Festival in Poland or Under the Dome in the Planétarium de la Cité des Sciences in Paris.
Yes, thank you. All right, so now that we've got this covered, let's dive deep into the two things that we want to talk about today. So first, I'd like to talk a little bit about the relationship between narrative and technique in the context of artistic practices. And then second, we will dive deeper into the performance that we're actually gonna showcase later on tonight. So, all right, the interplay of narrative and technique. So just first and foremost, I'm not a teacher, this is not a lecture, so don't take my word for anything that I'm gonna say. It's just my own opinion and my own takes on the experience that I had from the past years as an art practitioner. I want to talk about this discussion that I often had in the past years with fellow artists, but also with other curious minds about which one comes before, the idea, the concept, or the technical framework of the art piece, you know? And I think the obvious answer is that it depends, right? It depends on the context, it depends on the person who you are, it depends on whatever you're living at the moment. And so I want to give you one example where definitely it was a clear project where the narrative came before, and then we got to think about the technique. Those images are related to an installation that I did with a collaborator of mine, Anastasia. And so we were doing this residency in Georgia, in the Caucasian mountains, in a small village up there in the mountains, right at the border of Russian Chechnya. This was 2 months after Russia invaded Ukraine, and while we were doing this residency, Azerbaijan started declaring war to Armenia for the 10th times or something. And so we were stuck up there trying to find what we're gonna do for the end of residency exhibition. And so when we decided with Anastasia that we would collaborate for this end of residency exhibition, we didn't know at all what we were gonna do, but we knew for sure that we were gonna talk about borders. Also because Anastasia, I forgot to mention that, is a Belarusian dissident, an activist, and she cannot go back to her own country, never, because she's not allowed to cross the border there. So she is stuck at the moment, she's stuck in Poland. But yeah, it was clear from the beginning that we were gonna talk about these themes around borders. And up there was a studio connected to the residency place, and we had a bunch of microphones and instruments that we could use. And we decided to use contact microphones that we connected to metal rods. We cannot see it on this resolution, but basically we used contact microphones on metal rods so the sound was triggered by the wind and the rain outside, and it would create friction, and everything would go through a modular synth. And I also use a geophone, which is like a seismic microphones to measure, usually you measure seismic vibrations with it. And I was using it to trigger sound with visitors' footsteps in the exhibition space. So in the end, overall, this installation was about borders and the sounds that evades borders, that go through borders, that know no borders, so to speak. And the soundscapes were essentially made of sound of wind and rain going through a modular synth, and short-term frequencies triggered by those visitors' footsteps through a very simple TouchDesigner patch. And yeah, that was the narrative that came up with the technical framework that we chosen afterwards. Thank you. Opposite process, a clear time where, in my experience, where the technique came before the narrative. So you might have heard of Playtronica. I think they were here last year to showcase some of their product. I love them. It's a great team. I was doing another residency in Budapest a couple of years ago also, and I met with them and I was telling them about the exhibition that I needed to do after the residency, and they left Budapest and they lent me this Playtron device, which it's, sorry, I cropped it the wrong way, but it's here. We cannot see it. It's a funny looking gadget, but basically you can trigger audio samples or like any kind of MIDI data. You can trigger essentially audio while touching. There's a key point here where that is connected to the ground, and then you touch any other crocodile cable, and you can trigger audio sample. So from the get-go, during this Budapest residency, I thought I was just lent this Playtron device. I have to do an installation using it, okay? But I didn't know what to talk about in the first place, and I didn't want to do something with pineapples and avocado playing music, because that's not really my aesthetics, let's say. So in the end, I ended up doing something around deforestation, where I used the ground connector. I connected to a kitchen knife that was hanging from the ceiling, and then the other objects were like fallen branches and leaves, and when you would touch different kind of leaves, you would trigger audio samples, and essentially those samples were like spoken words of dystopian, cynical sentences. I was giving a voice to those fallen branches, like, don't be sorry, be careful, or like, chop, chop, another one bites the dust, stuff like this. Yeah, so, yeah, just to wrap up on this little part about interplay of narrative and technique, I think the important thing that I've learned over the years is that obviously this is not a two-step thing. There's not step one, you find the idea, step two, you find the technical framework, or vice versa. There are multiple steps, and there's kind of a constant iterative back and forth between having an idea, finding a technical tool to embody it, and then changing a little bit the initial idea because of the tool, and et cetera, et cetera. So it has to be a fluid relationship between the two. And this fluidity allows for adaptability. It's essential for us artists to be able to adapt when we are invited to showcase in such a space. If the screen is smaller than what we expected, or bigger, or the light is here, or the sound is on this speaker and not this one, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's, yeah, very important to be adaptable to the condition that we have to work with. And subconscious, I love this one. This is the esoteric part. But I learned to trust my subconscious over the years. We all have beliefs, we all have underlying concerns, and there will always be a way to, not only a smart way, but also an honest way to justify an artwork with a discourse that is personal to us. So, yeah, that's my take on this subject. Sometimes this discourse is right in front of your face. Sometimes you have to dig a little deeper to go and find it up there. But it's here, it's somewhere. So, yeah, I think that, that extra 20% you're going to spend formulating a good project proposal for an open call like Manifest, for example, is going to, in the end, enhance the final piece by a factor of 10, because you give the artwork some depth. It's not just about showing beautiful images or playing beautiful sounds. It's a little more than that, and I think that's this little more that I want to emphasize on today. That's it for this part. All right, so let's get into this performance that we're gonna show you. And especially we want to talk about it through the perspective of the use of AI as a technical tool that we prepared for you. The narrative that I came, okay, basically 1 month ago, there was this open call. We had a coffee with HARSHINI, and she asked me if I could do a performance for Manifest. So I was like, yeah, but who should do the visual on this 22 by 5 meters LED gigantic screen? And so I called NICOLAS, who's an old friend of mine from Paris. And yeah, I basically asked him if he was up for the challenge, knowing that we had 1 month, that we don't live in the same city, and that I wanted to play 40 minutes of music. So you said yes. Thank you. And I just told him, my music, it's about cultural identity. I'm at the moment trying to claim my Japanese identity, because I'm half Japanese. I'm trying to claim this imperfect, partial Japanese identity. And we realized that we were both exploring AI tools at the moment, at that time, him with visuals, images, stills, videos, and me with audio. So we thought it would be a nice, interesting thing to like use those AI tools to expand this cultural identity narrative into a more broader sense of identity, especially in this AI-fueled age that we are living at the moment. Enough of me talking. Please, Nicolas, take this mic from me.
Okay, thank you. So for this live, I'm using AI as an input of my workflow in TouchDesigner. One in a static way, with images that reminded us some Japanese landscape. And they are generated thanks to Comfy UI, which is up there. I did some tests about the particle system, and I get best result when images are only generated with primary colors, so they don't mix up, only with red, green, and blue, and a little bit of yellow. And I use also a top view angle, like a satellite view I did in the prompt. I also specify different type of landscape, like Japanese forest, Japanese lake, or mountain, in order to create more variation to the main patch. Okay, so for the second track, I'm using a fantastic tool developed by .simulate. Maybe you've heard of it. It's called Stream Diffusion. Yes, it's a fantastic tool because this allows me to create and to generate human faces, videos, with a simple prompt, is this not real, which is the title of our performances. And I think, ironically, AI brings more organic stuff to my composition. But since I'm concerned about real-time and drop framing during the performance, the result is recorded for tonight. And I'm only playing with a video of this renders of this image generated. I generate also 12 video that I align side by side in order to create more like a collage of digital human faces. We patch things up so that June Music is revealing the faces randomly. By adding visual distortion on them, it creates a new pattern each time a trigger is received. It's the first time for me I'm using AI in TouchDesigner, and I must say it's pretty mind-blowing because the possibilities are endless, and I like to see AI more as a creative empowerment or a new creative tool rather than a replacement for artists.
Yes, word, amen, for sure. Yeah, I don't have another slide for this, but yeah, as for my part, for the AI tool that I've used, I basically um, teach a model on my. I did two things. I train a model on my vocals that I sang without lyrics, so that I can create myself a little glitchy AI synths that I can harmonize with. And I did another experiment. I fed another model some spoken words of mine, about 3 hours longer of recording. And I intentionally recorded Japanese, English, and French, especially because I was interested in the glitches that I could get out from it, and maybe a new kind of AI alien language that I would strangely identify with. So yeah, you'll hear all of this and see all of this a little later during our performance, and that's it for this talk. Vielen Dank.
Well, I know you two guys were nervous. How do you feel? Okay. Well, thank you for that. June and Nicolas are going to perform in our main hall, which hosts, if you haven't had a chance to walk in yet, it hosts a 22-meter LED screen at Alte Münze. And if you're online, I'm so sorry, because that performance will not be live streamed. So very excited for what you have in store. Do we have any questions in the audience? Yes.
The the AI software used for music, what's the name of it?
What is it?
Yeah, what's the name of it?
So I trained a model that was already built. I think it's called Sample RNN for something neural networks. It's pretty easy to use it. You don't have to be a developer to use it, because the machine learning model has already been created. And so you can just feed him audio, and it's gonna create another kind of audio. And you can also, that's why I emphasize on the fact that you don't have to be a developer. Like, you can just play around with hyperparameters. It's the term we use for like fancy parameters in machine learning. And you can just play around with the temperature or stuff like that to output different kind of things. So it's pretty intuitive in a weird way, even if you're not a developer. So yeah, again, I'm not a machine learning engineer. I didn't build this complicated thing. You can just like download things or like run them in environment on the web and test it out and have fun with it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you. My question's really similar, because I'm an audio nerd as well. So your machine learning algorithm for the voice, was that a Google Colab notebook, or was it were you running it on a Colab document, or was it?
I could run it on Colab. I run it on my own PC because I have the environment, the Python environment and libraries, and I can use my own GPU. But you can essentially run it in a Google Colab. It's this level of abstraction that you can have thanks to evil Google to run things on the cloud. But yeah, you don't have to have like a developer environment to run it. So that's pretty, yeah, practical.
Are no more questions? One more, great.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I was interested about the microphone you use, the Seismic one. Can you tell me a brand of those? I never heard it.
Yes, yes, yes. That one is quite famous. I discovered it in Georgia. I used it in Georgia for the first time, and then I bought it because it's amazing. It's called a Geophone, and the brand is LOM, L-O-M. I think it's a brand from Eastern Europe. I don't remember the country, but they sell those microphones every 2 months. They're sold out in 15 minutes, literally. So you have to subscribe to the newsletter, and usually they send you an email like, hey, in 2 days we're gonna put those in sale. So yeah, be quick. That's it. Thank you for the questions.
Thank you guys so much. I know you have to run. Normally I would say, talk to the artists, they'll stick around, but actually you're gonna run to your sound check now. So thank you so much for joining us. We're gonna take a 30-minute break and be back at 9 p.m. for our last speaker, Stephen BONTLY. And you'll have a new host as well.
Hello, hello. Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last presentation of this TouchDesigner Roundtable. I'm going to take over for the last opening from HARSHINI to give her a little bit space to breathe, because she has been doing quite a good job today with managing all of this stuff around the manifest IO. So please, one round of applause here. And I'm going to give the stage soon to Stephen BONTLY, someone who's quite dear to me, because we know each other for 4 or 5 years, I think. I know him before he moved to Berlin. And he's been one of the first users to actually give me active feedback on my TauCT preset engine. So we had several calls where I got quite some good information how to continue the development. But enough about me. I'm going to read a little bit from the website about Stephen, because he's a new media artist and experience designer, and as you can see, he's currently based in Berlin. And in the upcoming talk, he will make a case for reusable components that drastically reduce the amount of time spent on preparing, calibrating, and making a user interface. I'm all for that, and without further ado, I'm going to give the word to Stephen.
Hi. First, thank you guys for having me, Manifest.io and the Node Institute. I wasn't expecting to actually speak at a conference, but in a small space in Neukölln, so this is a surprise, and thank you for the free PR. It's nice. I'm Steven. I'm a designer, a producer, and a performer. It took me a while to actually get up on stage because I didn't really know what I would talk about. I was asked a few times, but kind of just pushed it off, and now I feel like I have something to say. So my talk is aimed towards beginners to intermediate users in TouchDesigner, and I feel like a lot of what I'm going to say are things that aren't really talked about anymore, because Touch has become more of an artist-friendly tool. So a lot of the things that you will hear about, organization and increasing your workflow. But the takeaway is that it's possible as an artist to create simple tools for you to increase your workflow, extend your reach, speed up your workflow. So I hope that this is the result. Oh, I didn't get in my title slide. Not going. this way. There we go. No? All right. Into the presentation. So, yeah. So I am a storyteller, also an experienced creator. I live in Berlin, and I use technology and space as my broad medium. But I didn't always do this, you know. I came from the desert, a small town in the middle of nowhere in the US. And actually, there really wasn't much technology. In fact, I don't think art and technology was used in the same sentence ever. Maybe like technology in trucks or tractors or, you know, like things other than art. But I remember that one of my favorite tools was actually a bucket of nails and a hammer. And we used to like just take it around and just find scraps of wood, and we would just put it together and try and climb on it, break it, do whatever. It was some very good times in life. And you know, some point you have to grow up. And I was lucky enough to go to a design-heavy architecture school. The program was more interested in teaching us about concept instead of like how to build a house or to make a wall or anything technical on that. And I really appreciated that because during school I realized that there is a void missing in entertainment and architecture. And this sort of led me into the field of new media art. It also allowed me to understand that through technology, you can enhance the space that you are within. So, learning new tools has always been something in my life. I'm grateful for that. You know, my curiosity has always driven me to learn things out of my scope. This is important as well. And a large part of my journey is because I never was able to find a tool that actually did the thing I wanted, the way I wanted it to be, or how I could understand it. And I really feel like this is an important thing for artists, for self-expression, you know, to get you into that flow state, to master your craft, to master your tools that you're working with. And as creators, we make things, but you know, there's something else that we also hold really close to ourselves is the tools we use to make our art. You know, tools have always been something to extend the capabilities of humans, so it's only natural that we cherish these things. And this is how I found touch. I think it was touch 77 when I started, so I don't know, what, like almost 10 years ago. And to be honest, there really wasn't a lot of education based around it. It was just a bunch of people who were interested in creating real-time experiences. So yeah, when I found touch, I kind of went wild. You know, I think that everybody who finds touch and realizes its potential, you go a little bit crazy and you're like, oh my God, I can make anything. You know, it's like, it's the God tool. It's like, so I remember in the beginning having my desktop filled with project files with bad naming conventions and, you know, not even understanding when I made it or what it was. And I'd have to like open it up every time to like really get into like what I was doing. And this actually it's not sustainable. You know, so over the years, I started settling down. You know, I started learning from the community. I guess you would call myself a touch for lifer. You know, like, so I'm committed. You know, this is going to be something that I do for a long time. And I'm forever grateful, actually, for the community and the resources that they have given and provided the open source software. Being able to go in and reverse engineer anything that they've made has been an invaluable resource for me to continue my career. So my main medium is light and space, and most of my work has been done in the entertainment industry. But really the scope of my role, it depends on the role, excuse me. So yeah, I've used Touch to build GUIs, controllers for lighting, controllers for space, video content, tools for manipulating all of these controllers. And I feel like I have a lot more that I can make. Ooh, physical space. My career really started to pick up since 2015. You know, after doing the starving artist thing, I was here in Berlin, you know, trading meals for beers, and that was an interesting time of life, but I feel like it's the rite of passage you kind of have to do to become, you know, an artist or whatever you want to call yourself. And during that time, you know, I worked in live events, or actually up until this day, I'm still doing it on multiple scales. And I've worked in as a laborer, as a technician, as a designer, as a lead and build, a lead in operations. So my scope actually doesn't just lie in the software realm. It goes further. But it was actually during this time that I learned a lot more about people and space. And I was getting real-time feedback because the pieces that I was working on, they were actually coming to life, and we were making them. And so I got to talk to the people and you know, learning about what matters to them and what triggers them and why they feel this way. And you know, all of this knowledge that I was gaining, also invaluable. It really helped push the creative direction in my future projects. So also over that time, I realized the power of pre-visualization. You know, working in design studios, we always would build things, and before computers really became a tool for communication, you know, we would do drawings and do mock-up models and then bring this model to a client and say, this is what we want to make, and it's like this big, and nobody really knows what it is that you're making. So I had the opportunity to create virtual replications of the spaces we were designing. So we would bring clients into VR, we would do videos of just camera shots just going around. It was a really nice way to convince the clients that this is what you want, you know, like showing them what they're going to spend their money on before they actually spent the money. And so that was a huge stepping stone in my journey into the virtual space. What you see on the screen here, actually all was built in real life, but most of this is digital. It's a digital version of what is real. I think there's a couple photos on here that are real, but most of it's in virtual space. So that brings me to virtual space. So what does one do when you can't do live events anymore? You move to virtual events. It was an easy step for me just because I was already halfway through the door doing these visualizations, and you know, at least I thought it was an easy step, because the virtual space is actually what I believe is the true wild, wild west of now, of our future. You know, it's untamed. There's no rules. You know, you kind of just do whatever you want there, and you know, see what happens. But basically, I was trading physics for computation. So what I was spending my time working on, gravity and loads and bearings and all this stuff for structure, now switched to computation, and I'm thinking about algorithms and data processing and packing and unpacking. I don't know, completely different field. But you know, I was up for the challenge. So space plays a different role in the virtual landscape. I worked for the past 3 years, almost specifically in the virtual world, like a metaverse, I guess you could call it. But perception is key, you know, the way that the user interacts with the virtual space. Time is something that is more precious. The attention span of the user is a lot less. So you have to have tricks to keep them engaged, involved, interested in what you're showing. Scale, also something else that doesn't translate directly. You're stuck on a screen, you know, whatever your device. If you have some goggles, it's nice, but also still has its restrictions because basically there's somebody that's funding the project or there's some sort of purpose. And what always really takes the spotlight is the hero product, the thing that you're trying to show, the message that you're trying to give. Because infinite worlds are actually still a little bit far out. So you're giving a focused presentation, the piece that you're showing. Obviously, there's no physics in virtual space. There's no limits on multiple levels. Reality is just kind of, it's more like surrealism with a touch of reality. I could have a conversation on this for days, but like I think that's not the point of the talk. And then there's two that are kind of like really important. First are boundaries. There's no frame to really like what you can show, but there's still intention. Like you have to have a story. You have to like show them something, otherwise people aren't gonna really understand what you're showing, and then it's just abstract art. But maybe that's the point. And then the biggest thing is also morals. How people interact, like when you have two people in a virtual space, like what's gonna happen? It's a unique social experiment that actually carries a lot of the physical stereotypes and constructs that we have in reality. They come over. You know, it's an interesting thing to witness how much people are not different in the virtual world. Inevitably, storytelling is always going to stay the same. Virtual, physical, you know, you do the same things as a storyteller to engage your audience. Okay, what is to come? In the physical space, technology is going to become more user-friendly. It's going to make the canvas of space more easily controllable. So this is something we can look forward to. And the virtual world will continue to increase its presence. So that's just inevitable. And working and emerging technologies means that we're always going to be researching and developing new processes and really coming up with like new ways to translate and manipulate data. We are living in the age of real-time entertainment. Like it might not be so present, but we are pushing that boundary, like all of us here. And so, yeah, data is infinite. The way that you combine it with other data, it's just infinite. So, and you as an artist, or me as an artist, whoever, are going to find infinite ways to combine that data and tell it in a different story. So, yeah, this is still going to keep coming, still progressing. Storytelling is timeless, you know. It will exist far past our lives. And ultimately, TouchDesigner is a tool. You know, like I use many tools to get my job done. TouchDesigner comes to me when I need it for a specific use case. I use many softwares to complete my job, and I build tools in all of those softwares to make my job easier. Currently, I'm using Unreal Engine, Houdini, TouchDesigner, and Rhino 3D with Grasshopper. So, you know, just giving like a little bit of a scope of the range. Okay, so enough about me and what I do. All right. So after years of making a bunch of project files and naming your projects wrong, you have to realize something if you're going to continue down this path. At some point, you have to think like a coder. And I'm not a coder at all. Like, this is my full disclaimer right now. Leland, you hear me? I don't code, and if I code, it's probably going to be bad. But one thing that people tell me is that I can get the job done, which is reassuring, and it keeps me going. So I'm still trying. But there's something that really stuck with me over time was that you must stick to the things that excite you and let the other people do the rest, you know? So like, this is what keeps you engaged. This is what keeps your motivation up. Like, use the community, hire people, collaborate with people, work with people who are like more passionate about the topics you want, and you will make something even greater, I promise. So yeah, app building really isn't my focus, but it helps me work faster, to rely on a system, to create reusable components and things that will just keep me in the fun zone is like what I like to call it. So I'm not spending the first 30 minutes of my like creative session setting up a render network or setting up like cameras or, you know, just organizing my data so I could access it. So today I would like to introduce an app that I built, and I call it the Mixer Builder. It's an app that I use to create content for live performance settings. And here on the screen, it's kind of hard to see because it's a little blurry, but there are 4 main elements. So on the almost far left side, if you are familiar with TouchDesigner, the parameters panel, this is where the collected data is stored. This is the controllable data of whatever that you're making. On the top, I have the preset manager. Maybe some people notice it. I will talk about it a little bit later. On the left, I have my control panel. And this is sort of like the GUI. This is like the thing that gets everything done, you know, overall like management of the entire app. And on the right at the bottom, you have the file manager. Sorry, I keep cutting out. So yeah, that's just a little overview of the surface. And now I want to get into some nerdy stuff. I will start off with some housekeeping. First, you should always create your space. You know, make sure that you're comfortable in your working environment. I constantly use layout views. They helped me to just quickly go to like a very focused moment in my projects. That have like multiple screens with top viewers, or you know, the text port, or you know, multiple network views. These really help just like quickly tabbing through and knowing like when and where to get the job done. Making sure you have hierarchy. You know, a clean network is always nice for people if you're sharing and you're trying to work in collaboration. Readability as well, leaving yourself notes, leaving annotation boxes, also very important, leaving a trail, breadcrumbs. So if you stop a project for a while and you want to come back like 6 months later, it's easier to pick back up. Color coding your nodes. Normally I'm doing like green as inputs and reds as outputs, and you know, the stuff in between has like another color. If I have like special components that are GLSL based, there might be one color, or if I have ones that are 3D based, they might be another, etc. And the last bit about the housekeeping is naming, and this probably was my hardest lesson. You know, naming will take you places for readability, for you know, when you're in your performance state, knowing what your presets are going to do before you do it you must name it right, so you know exactly what it is going to do, or you just know that this button does that thing, and then it always does that thing. But these are a few of the housekeeping steps that I make sure to keep in my workflows. So when I build a tool, it's about a couple of things. It's first about having an idea. You know, like I can't just sit there and say, I want to make something. You know, it's just like, it has to have intention. So I always write it out, like plain and simple on a piece of paper. What are my inputs? What are my outputs? And what is the goal? What am I trying to achieve with this tool? And normally that like helps cut out all of the BS like in between where, oh, I think I could do this, but it's like, you know, maybe it's actually not needed. So like these are all the steps needed to actually achieve like something that's functional. And I stick with that even to this day, on not just for building tools though, but for designing a story, like a concept, a design. You know, these are like scalable ideas. So a few things that I wish somebody told me as an artist when starting Touch. Basic Python is necessary, I think. I know it sucks to open a coding interface, but it's important. You can get so much done with 1-2 lines of code. It will just take you a lot farther if you get into just a little bit of understanding of Python. Setting the stage, you know, in the virtual worlds, you have to get your variables, you have to initialize your systems, you have to, and then you have to get into it, and then you have to end it, and then you have to reinitialize it, and there's this process of setting the stage that I think that I didn't really understand when getting into digital content, especially in real-time applications, and this is something that like I hold also in my flow. Data types, also a big thing I missed, understanding the difference between floats and integers and strings and how much resources they take and what it is that I'm trying to do. You know, these are all things that must stay relevant if you're working in real time. And then also giving feedback to yourself. So the print statement is, wow, like giving yourself like a constant information as you're working, and also giving it like its location. So you can't just print, hey, you know, you have to print, I exist here, this is what I'm like supposed to be doing, and if it doesn't work, tell me it's not working, but I still exist here. So like these are like readability, like giving yourself tips along the way will help bring your flow to another level. So I will show actually my first tool that I made in the app. It's the component manager. Sorry, I will just move this. So the picture's here on the left, and once again, I'm sorry for the blur. Maybe I should go 4K or something. I can kind of just break it down for you. So at the top, there is this is how you change the environments that you're going to be working on. I'll show this a little bit more in a moment, but basically you have a menu that has a list of all the components in the project, and you can quickly recall them at any point that you want. And now I've split it up into a visual and a post-effects flow. So there's a grayed out section below that enables, like when you're in the post effects, you're actually able to choose a visual to use as the base against the post effect, so you know exactly what it is that you're doing. And beneath it is actually the thing that I really wanted to show, which is the create new comp strategy that I've created. So instead of creating new things every time, I create templates. And I put them in a folder, And these are things that I know that I'm reusing a lot, or workflows that I'm reusing a lot. And each one of these templates holds a bunch of helper files that I use that will communicate to the rest of the apps and projects that I create. And so basically, I can choose what type of component I want. I can choose the template that I want to use. I can name it, and then I can create it. So basically, it just creates a new component, and puts it into the where it needs to be, and it's all set up, ready to go for me to use in 30 seconds. And so this is important, especially when you're rebuilding and remaking a lot and working in this environment. Beneath that, I also have a save to procedure script. And this will allow me to, I set a directory, and then the component that's in focus, I can save to a folder. At the bottom, I have a few other buttons that run a few more scripts that, you can delete a component, you can save all the components. Just a few variations of that. But yeah, the create component script is actually right here. It might not be readable, but if anybody wants to read it later, I can show you. But it's something that I found super easy, and I'm really most proud of is, well, one of the things I'm proud of is these dynamic menus that I have in my comps. So when I access a database, TouchDesigner automatically updates, and when I change the database, it automatically updates this menu select, and then it will allow me to choose what part of that database to use. And so this makes it very quick when creating a library. And I'll actually show you the library in just a little bit. So next slide. So we all know the core of Touch is ins and outs, data, essentially. Getting, parsing, visualizing, building, storing, all of the actions. But on the surface, you really just want to show the things that matter. You really want to make it easy for the user to understand what it is that you're giving them power to control. So the namings of your parameters are important, you know? You shouldn't be naming I don't know, what is a random parameter? Life variance or something, I don't know. What's a random parameter that you find in TouchDesigner? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I mean, you get the idea. You should not name it that. So name it in a way that the user knows what it is they're touching, and the simplest terms. Try and keep it the least technical possible. That is the goal. And also keeping things that you like exposed. So I have built only one of these tools on the screen, actually. And the other three are from our wonderful friend over here, Alpha Moonbase. He's made some great advancements and have really helped me in my workflow. First and foremost is the preset manager and dashboard. And I use it often in most of my projects. It's one of the helper tools that I put in my templates that exists in everything. So when I want to store my data, it's already there. MIDI is also something that I find very desirable when I'm working in performance and production. So I have a MIDI mapper enabled in most of my workflows. Just not to have it in the actual product, but to find the values that matter. I think that that's a key. Being able to touch something while you're working is more important than, trying to find that right number along the way. I don't even look at TouchDesigner. I'm looking at the visual when I'm twisting a MIDI knob, trying to, oh, and that should not have happened. I'm twisting knobs. Okay. Not time for a demo. Okay, cool, we made it. So yeah, and then the last thing is I work with audio a lot. And a long time ago, I decided to externalize my audio for my projects, and I can call it from anywhere and send it locally over the network to whatever project I'm working and access that data in real time. Okay, strategy. Yeah. Welcome to the roundtable. Okay, so the options panel, my GUI. This is where I'm getting stuff done, and it's really on the back end. It's just a bunch of buttons calling simple scripts that help me navigate through panels. Yeah, naming, I keep iterating. Order of operations is something, you know, understanding when something should happen and when to wait. This is important. And to quickly go back on the navigation tips, there's 3 things that I feel like touch users should know or use. One is the op-find-at, being able to search through your projects quickly to find the data that you're working with is a very awesome tool. Tagging is something that I use quite often to quickly reference special things that I'm trying to get control of. I use it in multiple softwares, and I also use it for data management in TouchDesigner, and also op shortcuts. Global op shortcuts allow you to move through your project and get to the root of your situation. Okay, we will touch on the external libraries. You know, I think that having external libraries with a dongle license is also something that speeds up my flow. I can work on any computer in multiple different places, and I always have my content with me. So, lastly, we talk about reusability. And this kind of shows how I have my base assets, my libraries. I store everything in a folder, and then this is stored in the Dropbox sync that I have. If anybody knows about this or doesn't, you should check it out. Sync your files in Dropbox, and you can access them wherever. But basically, I'm using just this menu updater to, when I put an asset into a folder, it updates the menu, and then I recall it with the replicator script that I loaded in the beginning. If there's some things that I have a problem with that I need to update, I normally stick with batch updating. You know, this also reduces the time going through each node and figuring out what's wrong. You can quickly do that with the op-find. So the last bits on this. The idea is to keep autonomous nodes linked together with intention for expansion. Certain workflows are predictable, but each project will be different. Knowing where you can control data is the key to reusability. We always calibrate, we always normalize, we will always abstract outputs. But the closer you can get to a sync, the faster and easier it will become. Okay, and I was hoping to do a small tour real quick of the mixer. Let's see if it's... Here's the interface. And one of the buttons I have is a viewer button. So I can quickly open it up on my main screen. I can open it up as an extra panel, and if it was extended, I could use another key and I could full screen it onto another screen. But over here on the right, I'm at the select comp menu, and I can quickly change here what it is that I'm working in. And since this is just a builder app, this is not about real time. This is just about creating content and using it in another application for a real-time setting. That is important. So I'm not worried about the delays. So once I open up a new component, everything reloads, and actually can open up the viewer here. And so I think we're running out of time, but one of the things I wanted to show is a cam changer that I have set up. So it basically takes a few presets that you can choose from, and then you can quickly, I don't know, I think it's based on quaternions. You can quickly blend between them, or you could snap between them depending on what it is that you want. So basically, I have a workflow that allows me to go into a viewport, tumble around, I save a preset, and then the presets are saved, and then on the top level, I can go and just recall these positions and rotations based off of a predetermined blend time. So this is just kind of a demonstration of like one of the tools. This is not so much content that I'm making. I can choose between materials. Let's see, I can choose between models. I think this one's a plant, yeah. But these are static cameras, so you can't exactly get through it. So another one I wanted to show, I think everybody's into point clouds right now, so am I. So we bring up the point cloud, and I can bring in a scan. So my feedback, there we go. And here I can tumble around and kind of see what it is that I'm working with, and almost immediately I can start to play with it. This is a point cloud from my friend Carlos in the audience. Thank you for giving the assets. And on top of that, I have a collection of point clouds. So I can quickly come over to, let's say, a Japanese temple scan. And this is, you know, what you find on Quixel very, very easily. More and more we're able to take pre-made assets and use them in our flows, which is super cool. Let's see, I also have, yeah, and just to kind of give a little bit of a demonstration about the MIDI, I brought a controller just for 5 seconds of demonstration. But using a tool, I can quickly come in here and drop in a quick way to iterate on top of what I'm building. So let's throw 2 in there, let's see what happens. Then, but I actually didn't start up the audio app. I'm not sure we have time for that, but do I have a second? 1 second, I'll just open it in the background. And I'm not sure if that's going to come up in time. It's actually quite nice. You can see how it works. It's just a little UI that pops up on the side of your screen. It gives you the options, so I can open my parameters and then directly, I don't know, this isn't really taking up. Yeah, there it goes. So it's already working. And then I can quickly turn it on, and you can see it here at the bottom right corner. And I'm going to just throw it into the period. And now we have real-time generative feedback of like what we're doing. So these end up being tools that I'm using when building content. And I take them into different applications that I've developed for performance-based settings, installation pieces, etc. There's really not an end to what you can do with this software. So let's come to the end of Okay, we just had that demo. And the takeaway. So we're constantly growing and learning, and there are a few things we can control: approach, organization, and distribution. I hope what I've said today wasn't too boring, but it's exciting to be able to get to like the real creative stuff quickly. If you're interested in anything that you've seen here, you can come talk to me after. I have a GitHub as well with a few of these components that I've built online. And yeah, thank you for listening, and thanks for your time.
So you're saying you're not a programmer, but definitely what you have shown is the mind of a programmer. Are there any questions from the audience to Stephen? Where's the second microphone? It's over there. Now you know how it feels. We have one over here.
Yeah, first of all, thank you. That was really good. I really like the term of the fun zone, because that's where we all want to be, I think. I can tell you're a lazy guy because you work really hard to be able to be lazy. So that's really, really nice to see. And I just want to ask you if you have like a Patreon or something where we can kind of support you and also like kind of maybe see some of your tools there. That would be sick.
Yeah, like I said on GitHub, I don't make tools for people normally. I make them for myself. I've been told to make tools, but I really don't feel like creating support like for this, because at the end of the day, I'm an artist, and so like I'd rather spend the time doing that. But if you do check out the GitHub, there's like the cam changers on there, the menu updaters on there. There's something I didn't show today, but yeah, I even think the audio interface is on there. So yeah, I'm up for conversations. I'm up for like informing people of my flows and process. I'm actually teaching a course at the Node Institute this spring, so there is potential to pass on information, but as much as building tools that require support, not so much. Thanks for your question.
Do we have another question? Looking around. Yeah, here in the first.
So if you were given unlimited resources to do whatever you wanted, and wherever you wanted, you know, whatever scale, what would you do?
A hard question.
All the building blocks, so.
I don't know. I kind of am doing what I want. Like, I don't really need an unlimited budget. It's kind of fun to work within parameters, I think. You know, you can always dream of like a project, and it could be everything you want, but you're gonna run into problems. I'm gonna tell you that. Like, nothing is perfect. So, like, giving myself limitations and parameters actually sets myself up for success, to be honest. And like the complete freedom, it's nice to have, but generally you can go overboard in that, and then you end up with so much, and you don't even know what it is you're doing. So, like I would, with unlimited resources, take all my friends on vacation.
That's fair. Well, I mean, I think that there's a wisdom to what you're saying, of course, because you've clearly done this very repeatedly. But is there like the little kid in you would be like, oh, you know, it'd be so cool. Like, is there a fun zone? You know.
Absolutely. Like,
imagining that you would somehow
I'm almost every day like in that fun zone. But I also have a really big passion for the built environment, actually more so than the virtual environment. So for me, I would probably build my own festival, or, you know, like have my own collection of interactive multimedia art pieces, or, you know, those sorts of things.
Okay, if there are no more questions, looking around, no. So, no more questions. Thank you a lot, Stephen, for this very inspiring talk. And for everyone looking in the stream, I'm trying to look into the camera. This is everything for you tonight, but for everyone who is here on site at 22 o'clock ongoing in the main hall, we will have several live shows going on. I'm also going to do a shameless self-plug here and say that from the Spatial Media Lab, we still have the ambisonic setup in area D, I think. So until the shows, or in between the shows in the main hall, feel free to talk to this handsome guy over there, Timo, and he can show you a little bit of the setup. Otherwise, I think I'm going to give over to our lovely host, HARSHINI, and good night, everyone in the stream, and I think we have some more hours to spend together, so see ya.
Thank you.